teacher.
Oh,
I used to interpret during parents' meetings.
wow.
Later on, one of my colleagues recommended me this job. As you can see, I'm enjoying assisting my community.
Oh, wow, that's great then.
Hello, Madam Sonia. Yes. Okay. Let me look. Let me look if there's any interpreter for Kiswahili. Okay. Hey, Emmanuel.
Mbona, mambo?
Poa.
Kufiti?
Yes, what's up?
Mimi
Mbona
nimechoka.
umechelewa leo?
Nimepita huko nani Angelina, leo nimefuta bara.
Oh, nimesahau. Madam Sonia is looking for a Kiswahili interpreter.
Madam Sonia?
Yes.
Oh.
Enda uangalie. Ako kwa ofisi.
Poa poa.
Sawa.
I was just calling you. So, what's going on? We've been waiting here for about 30 minutes, and we don't have another Swahili interpreter, and you're supposed to come on time. We talked about this.
I'm sorry, yeah, things just came up, you know. I hoped to fund my salary, but we have not yet paid, and that's why I'm late, because I was supposed to pay the boda who encouraged me to work, but today he refused. I
So
just put it.
you haven't gotten paid yet?
Yeah, not yet.
And when are you usually paid?
On date first. Yeah.
Supposed to be paid on the first what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can understand.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, this is not the time for that. Let's begin. So welcome to the interview. This is our interpreter, Emmanuel, and let's start with you introducing yourself.
Karibu kwa mahojiano. Mimi ni mkalimani wenu, naitwa Emmanuel, na pia acha tuanze kwa ukijitambulisha tafadhali.
Asante.
Thank you.
Kwa majina naitwa Bashir.
I'm Bashir.
Okay. Bashir, let's start with you telling me why you fled your country.
Sa Bashir, acha tuanze kwa kunieleza kwa nini ulikimbia kutoka nchini kwako.
Kitu nilitoka kwa nchi yangu ni sababu ya vita. Wasi wenye silaha walivamia nyumbani kwangu, wakaua watoto wangu. Hapo wakaanza kubaka mke wangu, nikaamua kutoroka, kaacha wasi wao na mke wangu. Mpaka saa sijui mke wangu kama alikufa au iko hai, sijui kabisa.
I fled from my country because of war, and the rebel groups attacked my home. And would you please excuse me for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want some water?
Can you some water.
Yeah, I'm fine. You can proceed.
Okay. So you were telling me why you fled your country.
Saidia mkate na powder hapo hivyo. Sawa sawa. Alafu mwana siku hizi mayai ni kidogo ama kuku hawazai siku hizi.
Unajua kuku umesha kufa yote.
Kwa sababu ya ukame. Naona mayai siku hizi imekuwa kidogo sana.
Mayai na iko moja.
Na inatakiwa kumi hapana. Acha tu nitakuja baadaye. Wakati wa kupika njara. Safi kabisa.
Jacob.
How about egg? Do you have eggs?
Eggs, sorry, has just been finished.
Oh, they are finished, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, nilikuwa nimekam kukucheck about the other story. You know, our incentive have delayed, so I wanted you to add me like that's 3 liters of cooking
3
oil.
liter?
Yeah, this is
sugar.
So you'll give me 1 kilo of sugar, and I'll come and pay you when the money comes.
Manuel,
Yeah.
everything's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you are here to pay me. It is already the 16th today. And you did not yet pay me. Thank you.
Bros, you know, I always pay you. I don't have any problem with that. You see, it's because they just delayed to put the money in our account. But I hope that maybe very soon, in 2-3 days to come, the money will be there, and I'll come and pay. You know that I always pay. I don't have any problem with that. Can you please, because I don't have anything to eat right now.
Right. Do you really know how much you owe me?
Yes, I know.
Anyways,
Thank you.
That's not a big deal for me. You know, I always pay. When money comes, I pay. But is there any problem? Remember, you have been always paying the half of the debt. I can't help you today.
Sure.
I'm sorry. You better go.
Bro, please.
That is no more.
Mona? Mambo? Ya, ni Emmanuel bana. Niaje? Uko compound? Oh, sasa. So nisaidie nani 1K bana. Niko down sana. Bana, fikiri kama uko nayo nisaidie tu 1K nje kurudishia mshahara kikuja. Sawa basi, mimi niko field post. Sawa, nitakuwa huko basi kesho mimi. Nina shida. Sawa basi. Ni aje? How do you see this this job?
As in, we are having a lot of challenge, but I don't know. What do you think of it?
For me, it's just 50-50. I don't know if to quit or not, because I'm feeling like we are not being treated fairly. You know, in terms of transport.
On top of that, like, we are having many other challenges, like we don't have professional trainings. And the other thing, we are having trauma issues.
Trauma, yes,
With
trauma.
the cases we interpret. You see, like me, I'm having a lot of nightmares.
Why not? You know, we are dealing with traumatic cases. We're interpreting them, and people are having nightmares for this. Yeah. And we don't even have anywhere to go for therapeutic sessions. This is not fair, yeah, Muna.
We should call our supervisor and have meeting, and we complain and tell him what to do. He should tell us what to do, because we cannot be like this.
Do that, but I have an idea.
Can we first talk with the rest of the team? Because I think they are in the interview room right now. But
Yes.
when they come,
Yeah, I suggest we should call our supervisor and have meeting with him. And we highlight all the challenges we are having.
Excusez-moi, madame. Comment allez-vous?
Je vais très bien. Qui est-ce? Mais je vous connais, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, bien sûr, c'est Joseph, l'Ivoirien que vous aviez aidé en interprétant pendant mon interview. Votre interprétation était vraiment géniale. J'ai beaucoup apprécié.
Oh, c'est Joseph.
Oui, justement.
C'est une bonne nouvelle. Nous sommes là pour servir notre communauté, pour accéder les services à l'aide de notre interprétation.
Ah, d'accord. Je voudrais que vous m'aidiez à pouvoir faire avancer mon dossier. Et si jamais vous réussissez, eh bien, je vous donnerai quelque chose en signe de remerciement.
Quoi? Je ne suis pas capable de faire ça, monsieur. Je suis réfugié comme toi et il faut que tu saches qu'un interprète n'a pas laissé à votre dossier. Il est là pour interpréter seulement. Vos métiers après cette préoccupation aux officiers.
Mais vous pouvez quand même m'indiquer quelqu'un qui puisse m'aider dans ce sens-là. Mais, madame!
Hey guys, this is not fair. Because I'm thinking about this all the time. We've been raising these issues for like 6 months now and there's no action taken or any change. So I have thought in my mind, what are your views?
These people are not serious. It's like they are misusing us. In fact, I suggest we should strike today.
Yes, you are right. We have to fight for our right.
Oh, Mongoje, Madam Grace is calling. Should I pick the call?
Madam Grace.
Yes.
Hey guys, mtu asichukue hiyo call. Kwani hao watu wanatubeba aje? Kwani is it because ya incentive? Hakuna mtu anapiga hiyo call. We are staying off. Acha wakuje sasa.
Let them come. Let them come.
Hey guys, what is wrong with you guys? Mbona mchukui simu zangu?
Haki yetu.
What? What do you mean by haki yenu?
Madam, we have been raising this issue and there is no improvement. So we suggest today we should get your attention.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello Andrew, there is issue with the interpreters. Can you come please? Ni kama mmechoka na kazi.
Hi everyone. We had an issue with interpreters and it seems as we are not going to work today. You just better go home until we solve the issue. All right?
Sikilizeni. Alikuwa anatuambia kama wamepata tatizo za watafsiri, na kwa hiyo anatuomba turudi nyumbani mpaka wakati watatatua hiyo tatizo yenye wako nayo ya watafsiri. Ni alikuwa anatuambia. Hata na mimi sielewe, asubuhi mzima mkigo.
Hey guys, come close. I've heard that you refused to work yesterday, and I like knowing this in depth. Therefore, I've decided just conducting a meeting inside my office out there so that I collect each of you's data out there. And this gonna start with Muna. So you better follow me up to my office. Oh, Muna. Welcome. Have a seat. So please tell me what the problem. I want to hear you individually, and I want you to know that you've been raising the issue of incentive and delayment as well. But the issue is on the table, mean that we are working on them. So my question is, do you want to work with us or not?
Yes, I still want to work with you.
That's great. If that's your decision now, you better do. Then everything will be fixed, all right?
Okay, if that is the case, then we wait for the changes.
Good. Then call me for the next person. Emmanuel.
Yes?
Emmanuel, what's the matter with you? I know that we had a circumstance, but we are about to fix it. And what I know is there is nothing that can be fixed. You've paralyzed my work and still don't know the meaning of it. What I want to know from you is, do you still want to work with us or something else?
Yeah, thank you. You know, I've always loved working for you, but these issues that we are going through, I feel like they are really jeopardizing my decision to this work. We are facing the transportation challenge, the delayment of our stipend. Even the stipend itself is very little. But despite all that, and at some point, you know, we deal with traumatic cases. We don't have assistance, like attending therapeutic sessions. All those we've been dealing with. But up to now, there's no changes. You see? So that's why I don't think I can continue unless you make changes or you take action on the issues that we've been raising. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Then call me for the next person, please.
Yeah, the names that I'm going to call out. So if you hear your name, just remain here. And the rest will go home. So that come tomorrow and continue with your work. I have Emmanuel, Sebit, Mary, Mayom, Regina, and Jacqueline. These are the ones to remain here. So the rest, you better go home so that you come tomorrow. That's correct. Morning. Therefore, we've reached the end of our meeting and we've had all your concerns. You are required to submit your badges to my office and go home since we have no solution to your issues there. So let your badge follow me up to my office.
Wow. Good morning once again. The room is so quiet. And just as we continue, I wanted to just share something. And as I share, may I have the Kakuma team, this moving, because this is your presentation and we are moving on. We have, remember I'd already mentioned that this particular project was headed by Professor Kunreitha, who is right there, and is also a panelist. Then we had Tom Thomas. Tom Thomas, just carry your hand and move here so that these people see you. And remember, these are refugees. Tom Thomas Muyumba is from DRC Congo and has been a refugee for 11 years. He's a videographer, he's a photographer, and is actually a founder and director of refugee-led media group called Youth Voices in Kakuma. He's been in the film industry since 2013. I think that is quite critical. Then we have the other fellows. We have Kamoso, JB Kamoso. Just a show of hands. Kamoso is right there. Kamoso is actually a Burundian. He's a refugee. He's been at Kakuma for now 7 years. And he has a diploma in interpreting. He's doing it at the University of Nairobi, and is the one who directed this film. So you can imagine, with the limited information, limited knowledge, training at the moment, he actually directed the film. Then we have Adam Mohamed Bashar. Bashar is there, a very strict gentleman. He's a Sudanese. And every time, in fact, if you want to know these people close, I have more Sudanese in this fellowship. And Arop is there. Every time Arop has to say something when we are online, he has to later on say, yes, my sister, we are happy that you're there. You know, it tells you how close they are. And of course, we were with Arop yesterday. We know that Arop is part of us. So Adam, he calls himself Kanuna. He's a Sudanese. He's been in Kakuma for 12 years. He's an interpreter with the UNHCR, and he's also an research collaborator, and he actually wishes to be an international collaborator. We wish you all the best. Then we have Mulki, the only lady who survived the whole training. So Mulki is a Somalia, and she's a refugee. She's been in Kakuma since 2008. And strong as she is, she's now just left with her little brother. She doesn't want to talk about the other people, because when you're a refugee, then you don't have to talk about the other people. Dead or alive, you don't know. So that is Mulki. Mulki actually has done disaster management, diploma in disaster management at Masinde Muliro. You remember Masinde Muliro is actually the one who's always been helping us with the Kakuma arrangements. So we really appreciate. And of course now, she's also applying to now do something with Nairobi University. So she's still, you know, struggling to get more and more. And then last but not least is Shushu. Shushu is right there. Shushu is a Congolese from DRC, and he's a fellow research collaborator. He is actually, I normally call him a freelance journalist, photographer, you know, anything, you know, and he's really determined. So that is the team that we've been having. So we have seen that film. I know you're keeping all your comments because right away, I want to just request Professor Laura to probably say something little, then we can have now the discussion. Thank you. You're welcome, Prof. Remember, I told you yesterday, Professor Laura is actually an associate professor of anthropology and bad college. She has no knowledge about filmmaking. But because of the passion that she has for research, she actually just started something, and this is what has come out. And you can imagine there are great things that are going to happen. So, Prof, please come in and say something, then we will usher in the team. Thank you.
Is this working? Okay. I'm just going to say something briefly. Delighted to be here. I just want to make a few clarifying things about the film. The idea for this film, as you will learn when they do a very quick discussion about how this happened, was not my idea at all. It was an idea that emerged through our research, and that I don't even know who came up with the idea exactly, but one of them in the course of our research said, we should do a film. And, I think this is the way ethnography works, is that you follow, in some ways, what everyone else wants to do, and that's how this film emerged, with the generous and courageous support of Osun. They were able to both learn filmmaking through John Thomas, who runs the film center, and then create the film. I just will say one other thing, which is that the film is a drama, fiction. That was very important to them. Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. The film is a fictional portrayal that nevertheless, I think very accurately describes a lot of what we were learning in the course of research with interpreters. And it was extremely important that, for them, that this be a work of fiction. So I will say that for me as an anthropologist, what was most interesting is that I was cast in their script. And that I have never acted before in my life. And I also, when we first met in January of 2021, I was very clear with them that I am not a humanitarian. And that is not why I'm coming to do this research, and that this was not where I come from. But I was cast in the role of a humanitarian officer. So I had to learn what that was, and I think it was extremely instructive for me to understand more clearly. I would recommend those anthropologists out there in the room to think about becoming part of a drama to learn what it is. Okay, so I guess they're going to talk a little bit about the process of making the film, and then have our panelists discuss. Is that what's happening now? Should they start their quick presentation? I think it's pretty quick, right?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Laura. Kindly show us the presentation. So we are really privileged to have been shown that film, and we feel so happy and touched at the same time. I know when we come to the reactions, we are going to share our feelings. So you'll lead us through your presentation. Shushu, you're welcome.
Merci. Thank you. Okay, thank you. My name is Shushu, as you've heard, and I'm gonna take you through the presentation of our process. As you see, the film itself, it's called The Bridge. It's a film project that took place, or the idea came through a research, and that research was
led by Laura, our professor, and she was the advisor during the film process. So the project overview, it started as a research in January 2021 by Professor Laura Kunruth from Bard College. In the beginning, 6 interpreters, collaborators from Kakuma refugee camp were involved in this research. The research has been conducted both online, on Zoom and on site in Zoom, because that was during the pandemic. The professor could not make it on site in Kakuma, so that was the only way forward to conduct the research. And the idea of making our own film came up along the research process. So this means when we were doing this research about the interpreter's daily life in Kakuma, we actually engaged, we had a time when we watched another film that was made by interpreters in Kakuma, and we came up with the idea, as Professor Laura highlighted, that she may not be sure of who brought the idea, but generally it was the group that we felt like, can't we really change this research into a film so that the aim of that is that she's writing a book about interpreters' daily life in Kakuma, or the interpreters who works with humanitarian settings. And we were like, people nowadays are more into watching than spending time to read, articles, things like that. And then we all nodded our heads as you also smiled, so the idea was very good. As you can see, this picture, it's a group discussion. We were conducting focus group discussion with a team to gather now idea. It was a very long process. We were still doing the research, giving her the data that she wants, and at the same time picking some important point for the film. So 2 in 1. And as you see, for the pandemic, you can see social distancing. We also had to respect that. That's still a group focus group discussion. We managed to take a picture. Yes, please, next. Now, how the film idea came up, I've already tried and touched on that. Discussion about the film watched. So we had, after watching those films, we had discussions in person with the collaborator who was still in Kakuma, together with Laura online, and also invited the actors for a group discussion about their film. So after watching those films, we had a chance to invite the actors to discuss about the film that we are in process. Decided to make our own film about interpretation daily life in Kakuma refugee camp. I've said that. Along the process came the Osun Open Fellowship. Now that's where the heavens opened themselves, because along coming up with this idea, we had no idea where to find the funds. Laura was limited. Her funds was only for the research. But now the film is coming in to Tapata Wapi. Where will we get this money? So now Osun ilikuja, and it's grant. We managed to apply, and we were among the successful candidates. That's why we are here. Can't comment more. So this picture, this was a screenshot from a film made. These colleagues here are interpreters. So they made this film. We were watching it online together with Laura and discussing. So on my left side, which will be your right side, that's a Zoom meeting. And this screen here was a film that we were watching. Here also, the same film, yeah. Those are actors who acted in that film. Let's go next. Yeah, the research and film process. I think I've highlighted, yeah. Can we go next? The same. film workshop and discussion. So here at this point we had managed to watch another film made by these colleagues from I think they are Arabs. I'm sure they are Arabs. So we managed to watch their film and we had a lot of advice from them, discussions, because they also had made their film, so we had no idea on how to make a film. So we were collecting information, the important information from them on how to make this go through. Here also we had invited another advisor who was giving us was taking us through on how to make different shots. As you can see, a filmmaker can understand what that means. So that's how, those are different shots that we went through a long process. Go next. Yeah, that was now during the class. On the other side, you can see we were focused on seeing that person. He was showing us on how to connect the sound to a camera. So he was taking through that. Yeah, that's now a photo about the film class. And at that point, my colleague Kamoso is going to take us through and tell us the rest of the presentation. Kamoso, you're welcome.
Thank you, Chushu. Kamoso, you can take up from there. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to pick up from where Shushu has stopped. And I'm just going to comment on the difference between this research and other researches that we have been getting involved in the camp. Because usually in the camp, we have realized that so many types of research have been conducted there. And then it's like we just realized that there is a difference between this research that has been conducted by Professor Aurora and other researchers. Because also most of us have been participating in the other researches as enumerators or as data correctors, something like that. But we have realized that there is really a very big difference, and then that's what we are going to look at together. So actually this research, we have realized that Professor Aurora has used a method that we can call a research method, participatory action research method. So that's what we have realized that she has been using in this research. So actually this research, it's about engaging fully the object or the subject that you are researching on. So Professor Aurora has been researching on interpreters and about interpreters. But she didn't do that alone. That's why she involved all the interpreters, and she has been researching with interpreters. Not on interpreters or not about interpreters, but with interpreters. So it's like we have been working together from step one up to the other steps, and then we could do everything. Actually, what I've realized, she couldn't make any decision without all of us to advise her what can we do, because it was our concern. And also, some of the researchers, there is something that said, you can see from the screen, outside research team swooped down from skies, some over town, asked those questions that were not our business, and then they disappear, never heard of again. So actually, that's the difference between other researchers, because we have been seeing so many researchers. They used to come in the camp, they used to ask refugees questions, and then they go. We didn't know, so what that data will do for refugees. So, but for this one, it's whereby we actually get this idea of making our own film. And that's why you can see we make this film it's like an advocacy, or it's like an activist film, whereby we are raising our voice so that we can see that interpreters, those challenges that interpreters are facing, can come to the end. Or that's the difference between that research and that other researchers have been doing. So we can go to next slide, please. Okay, and for us, this research has been like a therapeutic or a healing tool as interpreters, because we could come together, have group discussions, we could have been sharing our stories among ourselves, because actually in the camp, as we have seen in this film, so we don't have that time of therapeutic sessions whereby we can just go and have discussion, have stories, because we do interpret so many traumatic messages. And after we are done, everyone just goes home, and then we don't have that time. So during this research process, because we engaged so many interpreters, we could come together and then we share our stories. So from those moments, it's whereby we could get a relief from those traumatic messages that we have been interpreting. And also you can see there is a scene whereby we tried to show Amira, an interpreter from that interview room whereby he was interpreting, and then he encountered a message similar to what he has been going through back in his home country. So those are the types of traumatic message that we use to interpret. And during this particular research process, we got a chance to just have fun, to discuss what can be done, something like that one. So it was for us something like a R&R, like a reflection and reaction for the interpreters. So that's why we just say that it was like a therapeutic or a healing to the interpreters community in this research. We can go to the next slide. And the objective of making this film. So actually we decided to make this film to change the perception towards interpreters in the community. You know, in the community, interpreters work with the international organizations, and community members just believe that once you are working with those international people or international officers, it's like you have that access to their cases, you can assist them, while it's not there why you are just there to interpret only. So we just made this film in order to remove those perceptions from our community. And then the second objective was to advocate for humanitarian interpreters to the international organizations. Probably there are so many people, so many international organizations that don't know about those challenges that interpreters are going through. So it was a good time for us just to raise our voices in order to advocate for this. And then another objective for this film was to highlight the challenges and the experiences of humanitarian interpreters, so that if something can be done, and we can see the changes. And we can go to the next slide, which is the last. And finally, we made our film. So that's why we are here today. And the process has started. We are still going forward. We are still going the screenings so that we can see probably in the future some changes might come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shushu and Kamoso, for that wonderful presentation. I want to, first of all, welcome our director, Dr. Rebecca. You have just come in. We already started. We are happy to have you. And definitely the education working team, you're welcome. We are still continuing to receive you. We understand you had to be a little late. So we've already shown the film, we've already had the presentation, and we have come to the point where we are now having the discussion forum. And this particular session is going to be led by none other than Dr. Tommy Kiiru, who will moderate the session. And I always call Dr. Kiiru the overseas scholar, because Dr. Kiiru actually learned in Rome, Italy, where he did his undergraduate through to PhD. And he's one person who has done, you know, BA in marketing. He has also done PhD in communication and media studies. So we wouldn't have had any other better person to guide this panel. because he has worked in different universities, different organizations, doing both marketing and doing, film and media and all that. So we are really privileged to have Dr. Kiiru, and he's going to be held by Dr. Kiguru, who is literally in the Department of Languages, and he actually coordinates the exams in that department. You remember yesterday, a few of us had to leave because they were going for exams, and it was so unfortunate. So we are so privileged, because at times such as this, he should not even be out of his office, but he has accepted to be here to guide us through. And one of the panelists yesterday, Dr. Makoha, could not really stay to the end. So he said, I want to come early. So even as they are doing it, he's also there, because he's also from Literature, Linguistics, and Foreign Languages Department. So that is the team that we are having, and they are, of course, going to be assisted by Professor Laura. So please feel welcome, Dr. Kiiru, and guide us through this very important session. Thank you. You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to start by thanking the producers. I will call them producers, even though I've been told that they don't have technical experience, education, when it comes to film production, documentary, and drama. But from what I've seen, I can say that it's a fairly done job, and I also congratulate them for choosing film as an effective tool of communication, because we know that film has power, it inspires the society, and it's effective when it comes to communicating the challenges which face the society. Because when we were watching the film, we were able to see that the challenges which face the interpreters in the field, the challenges which face the professionals working for humanitarian organization. And as I was watching the film, I had, I'll refer him by the name of acting Emmanuel. He talked about the challenge of funds, but I could see an opportunity for grant for him if he can go back and now refine the film, and probably somebody assist him in marketing the film abroad. I'm sure he can be able also to be a voice to the voiceless in the society. For example, the interpreters, the problems they undergo when it comes to assisting the professionals. So, as we know, film production comes with challenges. I also want to thank them, because I have seen that film production is a process. It's not just taking the cameras and rolling the cameras. It involves different stages, because you have to do planning. You need to start from pre-production, where you come with developing of the idea. You need to come with a script. You need to identify the actors. You need to identify the scenes. You need to identify the locations of productions. You need to get the best cameraman. And the same after the production, you need to look for somebody who can do good editing work. And after that, you do the marketing of the documentary, of which now you have done. Now the remaining part, as I said, is to refine and probably look for the marketer of your documentary. As I said, it's worth, and it can assist not only you as the film producers, but also it can assist those people affected or other refugees in the Kakuma refugee camp. So I think I will not talk much. I know that time is limited. I think now I can introduce the members of the panel. We have Professor Laura. You can just raise up your hand. Then I had Dr. Gatitu is not with us, but with the permission of the chair. Okay. Dr. Gatitu is there. Just raise up your hand. So I think now I'll take back my seat, and now I initiate the discussion.
Thank you very much. I believe I can speak from here. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Yes, thank you very much. Let me start by actually appreciating very much the team from Kakuma for a very brilliantly done film. It is a work that within a very short period of time, I think 37 minutes or so, you've been able to weave in quite a number of things. You've been able to speak, you've been able to articulate very many issues that I'll probably mention some of them, and then there are some things that I'll also be mentioning that you could also help us as the audience to understand. And probably we start with the title. Maybe I want you to tell us a little bit more about that, the bridge. Yeah. So who came up with that exactly? We actually started, there was a bridge, and I think we also ended there. We get it, but probably that is something that you would want to say a little bit more about. Bridges are physical, but I'm so sure that in your film, that was really not what you are aiming for. Linguistic, cultural, emotional, and all that. So that is probably something that you can also share with us, the kind of, bridges that you had in mind, even as you made your film. And by the way, probably another question I want to pose to you, does the community always see you like that, as a bridge? You may view yourself as a bridge. Does the community appreciate that? Do they always see you as a bridge? Sometimes do they see you as an obstacle? We saw a fella who was trying to tell the other, you can assist me with my case. So in this case, the bridge is simply not, that person might take it that the bridge is not working for them or something like that. So that is also a very interesting issue that came out. And then at another level that now we can discuss here as the audience, I think the film now focuses on the delicate balance that exists between. And I don't know, this is so much endemic in the world of interpreting. The assumption that if you can speak two languages, then necessarily you can interpret across them. So the question that we need to ask is there room for training? Where should we start? Should we now just go out there and look for people, I can speak language A, I can speak language B, then come and let's talk. So what is the place for training, but also what is the place for aptitude, passion, interest? Remember there is that fella who volunteered in church, the one who was telling us about strangers from everywhere. He has the passion, probably even the interest, but clearly the linguistic skills are not there. So probably now that becomes a big issue that organizations and even trainers, universities like Kenyatta University, when you say that you are training people to become interpreters, exactly what skills are you developing? Exactly what are you trying to tap? Exactly what is the beginning point? So maybe those are issues that we need to think about, to talk about. And then I think Laura, and maybe you'll tell us a little bit, about these. You made your debut in film, as you have told, and it was good, by the way. Your performance was good. Hollywood beckons. But before we go there, I think what I really want to mention is that in a sense, you have revolutionized the way we can approach research in certain settings. He put it very nicely that the film gave them a chance to reflect, a chance to, what is the other word was, a chance to react. So it is not just a question that, you soak into a refugee camp and then you collect data and you walk away. At least in this case, we are being told that people felt, they participated, they were able to show themselves. It was not just a question of responding to a questionnaire from Laura and then she goes and writes her book. They were able to document themselves in a film, no less. And that means that now the other contribution is that, I don't know whether all of you are actors, that means that some skills have been left in that community. That means that probably in future you could now see this as an avenue in which you could articulate other issues, maybe as a group. So that, I think, is a great contribution, Laura, that, research in certain settings really needs to take a different kind of an approach. There is a research subject that we can comfortably go and you sit there, ask you questions, I document, I walk away. But it is important for us to appreciate that in certain settings, people are left wondering, what was that all about? So what has it done for me? Have I even been able to express myself in the way that I would? And I think that's powerful. For me, I think that is something that is quite unique. I don't think I've even participated in research that has been able to do that quite successfully. And I think that deserves mention. Now, maybe I don't want to talk so much. When we talk about training, I think that has been a big issue, that interpreters are working, there is no training for them. How do you train an interpreter? What is training for an interpreter in a certain setting? You see, a refugee camp, a business office, an immigration office or something like that, all these are different settings that probably present very different. At the end of the day, we want a message passed from one person to the other, from one language to another, from one culture to another. But sometimes the setting itself now comes with its own dictates. It's a refugee camp. These are not people who chose to be there. These are people who found themselves there. Yeah, so you have to be there. And in a country like Kenya, Kenya still persists with the encampment policy. I don't know why, let's not even go there. That people have to stay in a camp. You are refugees, but you have to stay in a camp. So it is a forced kind of a situation. You have to be there, you have to stay together. So I think we really need a lot of innovation, even when we talk about training in such kinds of settings. We really need to appreciate that we are having people that may not even have ever dreamt in their wildest imaginations that you could ever have pursued interpreting as a career. But now here we are. Somebody has heard you speak in church and they're like, by the way, I think you can do this. So when we swoop in and then we say, Kenyatta University, here we are, we have a course, we want to train you. We need to really understand in which setting is this that we are going. With all our knowledge and everything, how do we package it? Are we training language skills? Are we talking about even the coping mechanisms? Are we talking about, in short, what I'm trying to say, that training here now becomes an issue of empowerment. It's not just training, that this is a verb in this language. If you want to translate it into this other language, you can do it like this. There are issues, like now the film has shown that probably, are you training to create a group of professions who can therefore now come together and be able to negotiate? I think that became, the issue here was power, the power imbalance in a camp setting. You want to work? Yes, I do. Fine, remain. You don't want to work? Then bring the badge, leave. So unless now we factor that into our training, that the issue here is empowerment. We have to give people skills that they have to be able to come together, form a profession where none exists, and therefore be able to stand up and say, no, as a group, this is the way you treat us, this is the way we work, this is the way we, something like that. So training is not just training, that you tell people that, this and this in this language is said like this or something like that. So training also needs to be reconceptualized or something like that. Laura, I don't know, I'm talking so much. Anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak very long at all because I know we're running out of time. I just think that what you're saying about what are we training people for over the course of this research, one of the really interesting things we've been talking about is, do these organizations in fact want to have professionals? And I think the overwhelming evidence is no. In terms of, I think this film in some ways shows that. So that is, that may not be the rhetoric, but it seems like in practice that seems to be part of what's going on. I don't really want to speak too much because we are really out of time, and if anyone has questions, I'm sure that the group would love to hear them. I will just say, in terms of the research process that you highlighted, this has been a really, probably my most incredible research experience that I've been part of. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that the people I was working with were, it was they were both subjects and researchers. They were taking on the research process and getting involved in doing interviews, and we did focus group discussions, but it was also something that they themselves were part of, and it meant something to them. And so their ambition led me, and their wish to do something and represent, have a product of self-representation became part of what I then went along that journey with them. And Kamoso's the one who told me that I was doing PAR. It's not like I started off thinking, this is my research method. He told me that that's what I was doing. And I just thought I was doing ethnography. But anyway, now I've learned something from Kamoso about what kind of research I was actually doing. I think I really want to stop because I know we're out of time, and if there are any questions, I don't know if there's time for any questions or not, but.
Okay, I think somebody has to ask a question. You can.
Thank you very much. I saw the film a couple of days ago, as you know, and I've been thinking about the film since, and thinking about where it's watched and how it's circulated. Because right now we're watching it in a university, and 2 days ago we watched it in a place which was, I guess, a sort of fancy, sort of trendy bar, in town. And but I imagine that you want as many people as possible to see this film. I imagine also that there's different ways in which you can maybe, this is just an idea, you might want to shoot it down, like there's little parts of the film that could almost be taken out. I know you've got this nice storyline that goes from front to end, but you've also got these little scenes which are super powerful. Like, maybe the most powerful one is with the crying and having to leave outside and so on. But there are also these really funny scenes as well, like the one in the church with the guy who can't interpret and so on. And I'm also thinking that often people might be watching these little scenes on their phones, this sort of thing that can be shared on WhatsApp groups or these other things as well. So I'm wondering whether you might also want to think, as well as having a film, which I think you should show in as many places as possible, to have, and I'm thinking about here, when you're trying to make your case and raise awareness of the issue, thinking if there's little clips you can use or trailers, like sort of things you can use that try and push people to watching the longer film and also highlighting this as well. So I'm wondering, besides these sort of formal settings of watching films, and I'm certainly going to find a way to show this film to my students back in Hungary, like, is there also a way you're thinking about how you can use digital media to circulate the film or parts of the film to different audiences?
Thanks much for your comments. Anyone who has a question or a comment about?
Thank you for the presentation. I actually arrived when it was going on, but I have found it, I think, a cutting edge, especially for us as researchers. Now we are in a situation where even collecting data face to face is a challenge because we are not through yet with the pandemic. And so I think the first panel member raised the issue of how this can be used to address other issues for researchers. But as an educational psychologist, you made a comment from my side, you made a comment that this was also therapeutic for you. And we know that refugee experience is itself a traumatic experience. Do you have any ways that you can show how this has changed you therapeutically? Thank you very much.
Thanks for that. I don't know whether somebody wants to respond about the issue, the question raised.
Okay, thank you so much. The question was if this film process or this film has changed us, or how was it like a therapeutic for us? So actually, as I have said, during the process, we have been conducting group discussion, we have been sharing our stories. So through sharing our stories as interpreters, it's whereby it's like we were releasing what we have in our mind, and then we no longer have those traumatic message in our mind. So once you are speaking something out, it's like you are just getting healed slow by slow. So that's what I can say, and that's what we have realized, because so we just conducted the interviews, not only one interview. We could meet with one interpreter twice or 3 times, and then we could have been sharing stories. So through that sharing of stories is whereby we just get healed. Thank you.
Thanks very much for answering the question. Somebody else wants to?
Thank you very much. I think we have a couple of questions here, but I'm going to top up on what Kamoso just said. You know, making this film, remember we told you that it was a process of sharing, gathering ideas from one another. And therefore, we had people who had left this job due to the challenges that we encounter. So those people are home. So we had remembered them through this process and brought them to a focus group discussion. So we had a chance to collect ideas from one another, sharing challenges that we face, but we don't share refugees. We are the refugees, but we don't share our information for the confidentiality purpose. So now, sharing that ideas, gathering all those ideas was like a therapeutic session for us, because once you spit something out, it lowers the burden, you know, something like that. Maybe that was on top of what Kamoso was saying. And to the title, I will take it back to Kamoso, because I had this question before. I had noted this question. I think one of you asked this question about why did we, or how, yes, did we come up with this title? I think Kamoso may have something to say, and then I will.
Okay, so actually about this title, we had so many titles that were proposed we can use for this film, because according to the discussions we had during our research, we had some examples that we could call this film of ours like, actually a bridge is a link between two parts. So, and an interpreter is we can say an interpreter is a link between two people, one from language A and one from language B. So if there is not that link between those two people, there is no communication. So that's why we tried to compare an interpreter as a bridge of communication. That's the reason why we came up with this title as a bridge. It's like a metaphor that we used without saying an interpreter, but an interpreter is also a bridge. Thank you. Probably someone can add.
Okay, thank you for all the comments and the questions you have raised. You know, as my colleague has said about the bridge, bridge is not here. The bridge, we don't mean the bridge that vehicles are crossing. We mean the bridge between officer and the client. So that is my bridge is an interpreter. If interpreter is not there, then officer and the clients will not communicate to get each other to receive what they want. So that's what we mean in short. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me also take this chance to share something on top of what they have just commented. A bridge was like, you know, this is a humanitarian organization. You are the service provider, and here are the beneficiaries. But even if you have anything to help or any way to help, there's no way you will get to know or to understand what this person needs. That's when you need an interpreter there. So the interpreter becomes a bridge between the the service providers to the beneficiaries. Now, I think there was a question on how does the community also see us like bridge? Okay, I think if you were able to watch the film, the community sees us as people who have influence, because you can also feel that if I sit there with someone who wants to help you, and I'm facilitating that help to come through, there is something that will come into you like, you know, oh, if this person is the one making this process go through, maybe this person has something, or because this beneficiary will no longer see you, you just help and you go. Now the person who have left is me, the interpreter. Since this person no longer know where to find you, this person can still come to you. As you see in the film, that this guy came to the interpreter and was like, hey, hello. And the interpreter was surprised. They asked him, do I know you? Which means we encounter so many and different cases and we don't really have to remember you. So, but the applicant, who is the beneficiary, still remembers who facilitated the process. And now he was like, can you help me? So you see now how the community sees us. So for the community, we are like something influential. We have something to do. And he was clear. Yes, please, you know, your interpretation was smooth and very good. And please, this is now the challenge. Please, can you, if you assist me, I can give you something. Why does that have to come in? If I assist you, you will give me something. That's a fraud or corruption. You see that? So we have that challenge, but the service providers does not see that. That's why we came up with this, at least for you to know that we go through this, and we need your help. Thank you.
There's a question also has been raised by Dr. concerning about the strangers everywhere. You know, the reason why the interpreter says strangers everywhere, interpreter is untrained, and he has never been interpreting in his life. So now in the church, the pastor has asked if there's anyone who can speak English to interpret for the applicants or for congregations in the church. So as you have seen on the film, Patrick has raised his hand and said, yes, I speak English. He went and stood in the stage to interpret. So whatever pastor says, he interprets, and it is indirectly. It's not supposed to be the way pastor wanted, but because he has never gone to school to know more about interpretation. So he said, we have strangers everywhere. He means we have visitors everywhere. But because he has never gone to school, that's why he has interpreted that way. So unfortunately, the professional interpreter came in. Pastor says, oh, now we can see Emmanuel is there, so he can come and help us. So thank you, Patrick. Then Emmanuel came in and then interpreted in the way it's supposed to be. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments and also for answering some of the questions and the issues raised by the panel. I think I will also add something on this. When you talk about the role of interpreter when it comes to humanitarian organizations, we know that interpretation is a growing global business, and as one of the panelists has asked whether the interpreters needs to be trained, yes, it needs to be trained, because the demand for interpreters is becoming high, it's increasing, but it is also coming up with many challenges, and I would like to identify some of them. The legal issues, because when it comes to translation, the life of because the interpreter is playing the role of a bridge, because he's bridging between the refugee and the foreigner. So meaning that everything that the interpreter says, it's the direction, the commands, he directs the foreigner, the person, the professional, to assist the refugee. So now the other issues comes about the ethical issues and moral issues of the interpreters, because if they are trained, because the interpreter has the right to choose between good and bad, whether perspective to take when it comes to the interpretation of the assignment given. The other thing is about the gender representation and misrepresentation when it comes to interpreters, how it's the gender representation when it comes to that role. The other issue is that the interpreters need to be trained not to violate the ethics of profession, because it is easy for them to violate the ethics of profession. So I think it is important that the interpreters are trained on this, because they are very important people when it comes to the refugees and also to the humanitarian organizations which are supporting the community. So I think I would advise the researchers also if they could look at those issues, because the interpreters are very important to the affected community, and without them, those humanitarian organizations will have hard time to move forward. You can imagine also in circumstances where there is a patient and a doctor in the ward, and the doctor does not understand the language of the patient. The same, the interpreter has also the difficult between choosing the right and wrong, because the information, the translation given to the doctor, it's what determines the treatment to be given to the patient. So it's a complex, interpretation role is very complex, and it needs to be looked at a different perspective, and there is importance of training so that they are viewed as professionals but not community assistants. So I think I would not want to talk much on that unless somebody has to comment on that.
I thank the presenters. I enjoyed your film, but I think it ended on a very sad note, because Shushu and his colleagues were dismissed, and then the rest of the interpreters who were protesting went back to work, but with no change of terms. So do you think there is any chance for change in your kind of work, or do you think you've resigned to fate and the cycle will continue like that. I want to know from you what you feel. Is there an opportunity for change, or it will be the same cycle of frustrations and anger at the work you do?
Hello? Hello? Yeah, the thing is, the film is supposed to end like that because the changes not supposed to come from interpreters. The changes supposed to come from the humanitarian agencies. So that's why we try to end the film like that. The changes, we expect changes to come from them, not from us. Thank you.
So another thing that I would like to add on this, actually this film is based on the facts. So that's what happened. Actually, it was some 7 to 8 years ago. It is something which happened, and then interpreters were just trying to request if their incentive can be added or can be increased. And then, so they divided them. They said, if you want to work, you can work. If you don't, you can go home. And then, so that's why we ended up there, because something happened and we didn't want to twist or to add or to remove. So that's why it ended up there. Thank you.
For that, I would also add a question on just what he has mentioned. You can imagine in such situation when the interpreters are striking and there is a patient in the ward and the doctor is waiting for translation. So the interpreters will have a hard question because they will need to choose between money and saving life. So it comes also the question of humanity. So how do they want to handle that?
Just a few remind on the training. I want to let it go because there's somebody who asked about the training. So you know, if we were actually highlighting this training or needing of training, is that we also want to fall into having a right to employment. Because if you understand, these humanitarian agencies employing us as I can't even call it employing us. It's like they are exploiting our knowledge because they just call us, and you can imagine working for, I'm a refugee, and you know UNHCR. So you can work for 1 year without a contract. Which kind of employment is that? Or which right do you fall into? Because if now these people want us to be employed, they would train us and give us these skills. And now when I have skills, I'll be, proud to do that work. So now that's why they are like doing this behind the corridor, you see. So they don't want to train us for us to become professionals. So when I become professional, I'll have right to employment and other, rights that I deserve. That's it. So thank you. I won't take much.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment about the training on interpreting. It's community interpreting. Right now, there are courses that are going on with the University of Nairobi on the same. And I think InZone is involved in the recruitment of the students. I don't know whether you are aware of that. Actually, at this time, they are doing the recruitment of students. I would advise that possibly you visit the InZone offices at Kakuma so that you see whether you can get an opportunity. Okay.
Thank you for that great point that you have raised. I think one of my colleagues, known as Kamaso, he's one of those interpreters, and I was supposed to be with him, but due to some challenges. Remember, refugees in Kakuma are from different countries, different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds. Thousands of graduates from different countries, not in Kenya, when they apply for such opportunities, authorization in the university tells them, we need to have Kenyan form certificates, while yet I have never gone to Kenyan schools. Remember, I personally, in front of you, I have never attended Kenyan schools. I started back home. When I applied, they told me I must submit Kenyan form certificate. How do you expect me to submit that while I don't have it? So we need those humanitarian workers who are concerned for this to raise such kind of challenges. All the certificates around the neighboring countries elsewhere to be considered. It's just a matter of language differences. Thank you.
And maybe to that, remember yesterday I raised a question about recertification that now comes back. You know, there are people who have studied from different backgrounds. For let's say for people from the Great Lakes, those are people who came from Burundi, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They speak French. Now, for me to qualify, or let's say I have a diploma, I have a degree, but Niki Faransa, it's French. So taking it to you, it's like a bizarre for you, and I don't have where to go and recertify to make my papers in equivalency to the Kenyan educational standard. You know, we have all those challenges, and now we are, undermined and oppressed due to that. So that's why, and actually bringing this up is we want the government to know that the government also to know that this is happening there. And they should actually take, an action to that, because we don't know if we are employers, we don't know employees, we don't know in which category are we working in. Thank you.
I just want to. The film, I don't know if you saw the film, but that was filmed in Enzo.
Thank you. I don't know whether you're done. You can wind up the session, please.
Okay. I think we don't have much time. Mine is just to thank the panelists and also the audience for the participation in this arguments or discussion on this film, The Bridge. I think it has raised critical issues which needs to be checked by the humanitarian organization. So I think somebody was making notes, and there are very serious issues which needs to be taken care because interpreters are very important in affected communities, and they need not to be taken for granted. I think I'm going to end there, and I return back to the chair. Thanks,
Wow,
Chair.
thank you. Round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation, the Kakuma team, and guided by Dr. Tommy. Thank you so much for the panel that shared very, very ably. We want to just say thank you, and you can take your seats. Now, we are moving on very well. And I want to still welcome those of us who came a little late after we started. And I want to let you know that today we have just half day because there are those of us who are traveling later in the evening. We don't want to keep them here so late. So we are going to have a health break. But as you go for the health break, we are coming back for an open forum where we are going to have brainstorming session. So we are going to brainstorm and see how we can actually have the whole fellowship discussed and what we can do next. Of course, we have our Dadaab team is also here. They'll also share, and we will find a way of just coming up with something tangible out of this fellowship. So thank you so much. We can go for tea downstairs where we moved the other time. Take about 20 minutes, and then we should be back. Thank you.
Driving and riding without incidences on the road is such an amazing experience. But do you know while many road traffic crashes are avoidable,